Welcome back, squad. Trade deadline has passed. We are moving on to week 10. Here's 5 people I don't like. Up first, Breece Hall versus the Browns defense. The Browns defense has been really good against the run this year. They've given up 2 touchdowns to running backs all year long. They're top 5 in average fantasy points per game and red zone fantasy points per game given up to running backs all year. And you have to remember the most important piece. Breece Hall is on the Jets, and they just traded away all of their defense. So they're going to be throwing, I think, while maybe this could be a shootout game, the Bengals defense is much worse than the Browns. I don't really see that happening. He might rush into the end zone. Maybe if Fields can do something, maybe if he's even starting. God, the Jets are so Anyway, you might not be in a place where you can sit him. I don't even know if I would sit him myself, but I would just kind of limit your expectations there. Number 2, Bucks running backs versus the Patriots. This includes Bucky, Rashad White, Sean Tucker, whoever ends up going for them. No running back has 50 rushing yards against the Patriots this year. It's week 10. These are some of the running backs they've played. Bijan, Achane, Chuba, James Cook, Alvin Kamara. They've given up 1 receiving touchdown to running backs, and it was to Achane, and they gave up 1 rushing touchdown all year long to the running back position. Do you know who it was to? None of those guys. Kenneth Gainwell. What? So yeah, I don't feel great about them. They're going to have to catch passes, I think, to be successful, especially like if it's Rashad White. That man looks like he has lead in his entire body. He's just a body of lead. It is hard to watch. If it's Bucky, the week he comes back from injury, that also scares me. And it's the Pats defense, just a tough matchup in general. Up next, I've talked about this defense before against tight ends, but it's the Falcons going up against Tyler Warren. I'm not going to regurgitate the same info. They're very good against tight ends. Maybe slightly getting worse because Henry had a career game. Not actually. He had 4 catches. But for like where the Falcons defense is, that's really good, honestly, against them. So yeah, Tyler Warren against the Falcons defense. Just be careful. This was going to be Tucker Kraft, but sadly he is dead and gone.
Tucker is in a better place.
Now it's Luke Musgrave against the Eagles. The Eagles have given up 1 touchdown to tight ends, and it was against Evan Ingram. They average 8 fantasy points per game to the tight end position. They're a very stout defense against tight ends. They're also top 10 in tight end targets, that's hard to say, and top 10 in red zone fantasy points per game allowed. And they've allowed over 60 yards in 1 game to tight ends this year. They're pretty solid against tight ends. If you were on the fence about Luke Musgrave, I would maybe probably sit him this week and then reevaluate next week, especially because I want to see the snap shares. Because, it's the Packers and they have just 100 people to throw to, which is just great for fantasy. It's awesome. It's so awesome. Up next, this one, I'm going to kind of give some context to Christian McCaffrey against the Rams. I know. Just be patient. Just sit tight. The Rams have not allowed a rushing touchdown to a running back all year long. Not 1. And they average 14 fantasy points a game to the running back position. Now, am I saying sit CMC? No, of course not. You can't sit him. But that's something to be aware of. I think with these really good fantasy players, like if I give you Jamar Chase and I gave you a bad matchup for Jamar Chase, would you sit him? No, of course not. You wouldn't sit Jamar Chase. He's Chase. So what do you do with that information? It's like, what do I do with CMC against a good Rams defense? It's like, I'm still going to play him. So cool. For me, I kind of take that into the matchup. If I am playing someone and I have CMC, let's just say in this matchup, and he's playing the Rams, I don't foresee him getting 35 points. Could he? Sure. But I think he would have to do it receiving, which he could do. He averages 10 targets a game. He's basically a wideout on that team. It's not that he can't, but it limits his options to get there. So it's harder for him to get to 30, 35 fantasy points. So that caps his ceiling in my mind. Now it's still Christian McCaffrey. He still could do amazing. That's just who he is. But limits his ceiling, limits the ceiling I have as my team. If I don't get ceiling from Christian McCaffrey and I really want ceiling, I need to get it somewhere else, right? I need to plug and play my lineup. I would start CMC, of course, but I would start a ceiling player like a Trey Tucker maybe with him. That's kind of how I approach it, but you do whatever you want. But he has a tough matchup on the ground this week. And then a bonus one for you, Trevor Lawrence against Houston. Houston's defense is solid against quarterbacks. They have been all year. They average 11.5 fantasy points a game to quarterbacks. They're very good. They're top 5 in completions, touchdowns, and yards allowed to quarterbacks. Trevor Lawrence has run the ball into the end zone a few times this year, but they're top 3 in rushing attempts and rushing touchdowns to quarterbacks. So just a tough matchup for T-Law. If you were thinking of streaming him, I probably wouldn't. Anyway, that's who I don't like going into week 10. Let me know who you are not a fan of going into week 11. We're going to flippity floppity, get some people that we like. Someone skateboarding. Okay, that's all. Peace out.